All right, I'm back with another video on the hatch. Last video, I was working on the back end of the hatch. I removed the boot floor, fabricated a new one, tacked it in place, started playing with the rear panel. So that's all looking good. If you want to see that, click the link in the corner, whichever corner it is. So yeah, today I'm going to continue working on the back of the hatch. There's still more to do. I have to button up some repairs here and there, and hopefully we can get the boot floor into epoxy primer in this episode. So let's check it out. All right, where we're up to, I have tacked the back panel on. I used a straight bar between this point and this point to hold this out, because once you remove this structure, it wants to pull itself in. So once that was done, I measured up, cut out the excess. I've cut the rear panel, well, the excess where it starts to curl in. Otherwise it would literally just stick out that much, and you test fit the towel light buckets and you wonder why it's sticking out in the quarter so much, and yeah, it was a whole thing. So I've cut the excess off where it is straight and then starts to curl. I've also cut the inside there, and I had trimmed it and I peeled this back up flush, and I hammered and dollied so it's smooth, and clear coated it to here, marked it from the inside and chopped it, and same on the other side, and then tacked it in. So that's holding the boot structure open, that's holding this in its place. The quarter panel wraparound I'm redoing, so I've just cut all the offending metal out. In earlier images, you would see that there was, a couple of welds here and there. It was sort of had heaps of bog. It was sort of sunk in. So I've cut it all out, and I'm already started to work on this side. So I made a panel, English wheeled it, and then bent it where the body line is. I've clear coated in, obviously had enough to wrap around, and by doing this I had to cut a little bit of the excess around here first, because there's a gradual sort of curve, but if you do it all in one piece and then try and curve this end over, it'll flatten out here, and yeah, it's a whole thing. So I cut the excess out, clear coated it here, clamped it, put the towel light in the bucket, marked it from the inside, and roughly cut out the opening. It's not finished at the moment, and I'm just test fitting the light now. It's a little bit tight in here, but this is the most important part. Initially this was sticking out heaps, and that's because this part of the quarter panel was sunken in and all that sort of stuff. So I'm still test fitting now, and gonna mark out all the excess for here from the inside, make sure I get the curvature right here. So it's turning out all right. It's kind of a complex shape. Clean up the backside. We don't want any of that stone guard and paint and stuff contaminating weld. Tacked in with the MIG. I'll add a few more tacks, grind it down, and then TIG it in. The body line is still sharp there. It actually, the line fades away about this area, so as you can see, it's, once I flatten it out, it should be where it should be. Alright, that's looking heaps better now. Nice cutout. I'll put a flange in there eventually. Tigged in. Panel beaded out. Not much shrinkage. A few pinholes to weld up, but pretty happy. Making my filling piece now. Pretty simple. I just used some tape, covered the gap, and marked out where I needed to, and trim. Now to get this part here, because I actually dropped the back panel and it's sort of dented, but I'm hammer and dollying so this can meet each other. Update video. The filler neck extension is all welded in as best as I could get it. The joints won't be seen once the false floor's in. Plus with a Raptor coating it should be okay. This is what I was most concerned about, was in here, because when you fill up you will be able to see it. Now it's actually not too bad. I did tack, cool, and got the little mini belt sander in there and just flattened it all out. So before the beaver panel goes on, this area I'm going to put in epoxy, and obviously going to shoot it up in here as well. Then I will put a bit of fiberglass filler. That's not daylight, that's just a reflection. Put a bit of fiberglass filler and some normal filler in there to just smooth it all out while I can actually access it, and that should be good to go. I've plug welded the rear panel in, that's all good. I've made the filler piece for there. That's looking pretty good. I repaired a gaping hole. The boot floor is now spot welded to the back of the panel. Now what I'm doing in here, short of removing this whole structure just to get in there, there was quite a bit of surface rust underneath there, and old paint obviously. I stripped the paint with some paint stripper, and now I'm just attacking the surface rust. It's a little bit hard to get in there with sandpaper and a drill or whatever. But I've soaked this in phosphoric acid, metal conditioner, and it's just been sitting on there for a while. It's actually coming up okay around here. Still need some more attention at the back. Once I've gotten that clean enough and I spray the boot floor in epoxy, I'll just blow it in there as well, and it should be good to hold. Then I can weld this structure back on, the bit that I cut out for access, and yeah, making steps. Okay, that's it for today. This is it for this weekend actually. I have coated behind the beaver panel and the section behind the filler neck with some epoxy, and also got the metal nice and clean, all scuffed up, deoxidized, and some epoxy there because I'm gonna weld that panel back down here, and just so I can make sure I get all the epoxy in there so I don't miss any spots. But yeah, this is only just brushed on, and to be honest, I don't like it. I prefer to spray it, but you know, people say you can brush on epoxy or Epotech, so I gave it a go, and yeah, it works okay, but not ideal. I don't like the finish of it. I'm methodically doing some jobs. Don't mind the dirty boot floor, but I'm cleaning the inside of the guards there, because I want to put that in epoxy primer as well, and then put some stone guard over the top, maybe Raptor lining or whatever I decide to use. So that just had brush on stone guard, crappy stuff you could get from Super Cheap Auto, and yeah, I want something a little bit better than that. I don't know why there's a rear quarter patch panel in there. That was a brand new quarter, so I don't know why I cut out the old one. Maybe it had a bit of rust from when the new quarter panel was sitting around. I'm not sure. It's a weird one. And I'm currently getting rid of the old paint and crap on that side. But right now, this little support piece that I cut off to actually get access inside the diff hump, I'm now going to weld that back on. But to do that, this is the piece here. I'm welding a new flange onto it because the previous one, when I removed the spot welds, was pretty damaged. So tacking it in now, and then I'm going to fusion weld it with the TIG. Alright, all tigged up. It's fusion welded. Apologise for the focus. I just fusion welded it because I didn't want major dags on the inside, because actually this is what you can see, so it's good enough for me. Just drill some holes, remove this paint, and weld it in. Okay, so I did a last minute rust repair job. There was a couple of little dots and I couldn't weld them up with the MIG, they just blew through, so I put a rectangle patch there. All good. I have metal conditioned the whole of the inside in here, 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 and back here. And then I've sanded it down with a DA and 80 grit and a bit of Scotch-Brite. Now I'm just gonna wipe it all down with thinners, mix my primer up, and start spraying this, sealing it all up. So we're all in epoxy primer now. Bit lumpy from the sledgering, but that's okay. That will be underneath the false floor. Seam sealer will be applied all around there. Seam sealer will be applied all around here as per factory. And up here. And probably even here as well. And to seam the towel light buckets. And you can sort of tell the join. So the butt weld joint is here. No pinholes or anything, like that was a single pass and a grind down, and I shone the light from both ends and there was no pinholes. To make doubly sure, I could apply some seam sealer prior to the boot coating, or even fiberglass filler, but it's probably not necessary. Now these strut tower braces have been off once upon a time, not by me, probably from an earlier repair the car had in its lifetime. So you can see where they've drilled out the spot welds and then they've just MIG stitched it in. I mean, I thought about cutting that all off, grinding it down, and then MIGging it in through the spot weld holes. But in a way, I sort of didn't want to, because it's a lot of time for that. Literally gets covered by upholstery. You know, they obviously had procedures back then when it comes to repairing, so I'll leave it as it is. And that was my little rust repair there. It's not really visible in epoxy, so that's pretty good. These inside guards took a lot of sanding, a lot of cleaning, but they're all in epoxy now. Much neater, much nicer for a new coating. It's all worth the effort, that's for sure. And it's a little bit hard to see. Let me get myself a light. I don't know if you can see there. A little bit rough because I finished it with 120 grit, but I have smoothed where I welded and sprayed a bit more epoxy over the top. So once the car goes into high build, I won't be masking out this opening, and I'll be spraying high build in there and doing some blocking in there as well, just to refine that surface a bit. But that's fiberglass filler over the welds, just to stop any porosities, and then a bit of normal filler over the top just to smooth it out a bit better. The whole idea is for when, you know, someone fills up, or myself, and you look into that cavity, you're not going to be able to see sticking out like dog's nuts a welded repair. So these new flanges double up as, you know, giving a sort of factory vibe, even though I don't think they look like this, or they go underneath the bucket, and then this area is full of lead. However, the new replacement flanges I welded on serves as closing the gap for the tail light, between the quarter and the tail light, and also gives me, well, strength, gives it strength, and also gives me somewhere to, you know, apply neat beads of seam sealer around the whole area. So I didn't really touch on it in the previous video, but the hatch corners are all in. They're spot welded here, 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 there, and there. So the new channel will run around here and across the top here. So that's how it looks like from factory, right? So you've got your folded over flange bit, and it's spot welded to the corner. Now remember, in the previous video, the opposite side I had welded and then smoothed it over with filler, and it didn't look the same. So here's a closer look of what that looked like. I literally just made a line. I drew a similar flange, cut it, and spot welded in. So that's looking pretty good. I'm happy with that. So the hatch corners were quite a easy job considering. Alright, well, I'm happy with the progress. The inside of the hatch compartment's all sealed up in epoxy, so that's good. That's one leap forward. It just needs some seam sealer applied nicely, and I will coat the inside at a later date. But for now, the next stage, I reckon, will be prepping the false floor tray, and get that welded in, and then we're a couple of steps closer. Thank you very much for sticking around for this video, and we'll see you at the next one. Cheers. See you.